are having our second conversation this morning, and it's all about skincare tips from Dr. Skincare. We have here with us Dr. Jorge Lopez, and he's a dermatologist. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Lopez. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us on set.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure as well.
All right, so we're talking about skincare tips or preventative measures to prevent skin cancer. First off, I wanna just touch really quickly on the importance of preventing these or using these tips, really, because as you mentioned to us, skin cancer is something that you can prevent. Let's talk about that.
Okay, yeah. One of the positive things about skin cancer is that most of the time it's easy to detect because your skin, you know, it's rarely right there for us to examine. When it comes to prevention, it's very, very important that we understand the concept of photo damage or sun damage. And this is the damage that UV radiation would cause on the skin. And the important thing to remember is that it is cumulative. So it adds up through time, right? So oftentimes when I ask my patients that have skin cancer before I do surgery or a procedure on them, I ask them, okay, so this means that you've been exposed to a lot of radiation, right? A lot of sun exposure. And they would say, well, no, you know, for the past 10 years, I've been mostly indoors. But when I ask about childhood or adulthood, oh yeah, you know, I used to go on my boat every day, or as a kid I got sunburned several times. So the skin has a long memory, right? And what we do starting childhood actually will have consequences later on. So that brings me to the very first thing, is to definitely avoid being out in the sun, definitely avoid getting sunburn. We know for a fact that if you get a sunburn and there are blisters on your skin, just by getting that blistering sunburn, your chances of having skin cancer immediately doubles.
Wow.
And then if you have 5 or more sunburns, that also doubles the risk of you having skin cancer.
When you say blisters, you mean when you get so sunburned that your skin would peel?
Yes. And sometimes you get blister depending on your skin type, right?
Wow.
So a blistering sunburn, immediately you get one, you know that you doubled your chances.
That's kind of scary, the thought of it. Considering the fact that we often encourage kids to get out there and you know, enjoy being outdoors. That's on one end of the spectrum, if I could describe it as such. On the other end, you have laborers who toil in the sun. That's what they do. Yeah. So you have fishermen who are out there exposed to the sun every day. You have cane farmers, for instance, who may not necessarily always go to their long sleeves and gloves and what have you, but they're exposed nonetheless. And these are recreation and these are livelihoods. So how do we reconcile that thought?
Yeah. Well, you know, first of all, being outdoors, it's great. It's healthy, right? So and definitely for kids, right? It's a very good thing. The only thing is we have to take some measures. For example, appropriate clothing, right? Widely brimmed hat, long sleeves, you know, and sunscreen on the areas where your clothes are not covering. If you do that, you're pretty much safe, right? So it's a little bit of adjustment in terms of lifestyle. For example, if you're a runner, right, you don't want to go and run at 1 in the afternoon. You would like to do it earlier in the morning,
or
6,
late in the evening,
right, or later in the evening. So it's just being a little bit mindful and making adjustments. You don't need to give up your active outdoors or outdoorsy lifestyle.
Okay.
Right?
There's one point that I wanted to bring up, because you mentioned wearing protective clothing, whether it's a hat, sunglasses, long sleeves, whatever it is. Do you need to use sunscreen if you are wearing sleeves or longer sleeves or protective gears?
That's an excellent question. Okay, so first of all, when it comes to the clothing, it's not every cloth that would protect you equally. You want something that is, the fabric is tightly woven. You would prefer lighter colors. That's also important because like darker colors, they would absorb and then they make you more hot and you know, just more uncomfortable. So the type of clothing, it's important. There are some clothing that are specifically, or they do bring with some factor to protect your skin from UV. There's also some detergents that bring that protective factor in it, so you could do your laundry with them. But yes, clothing, it's important, you know, and then hat. The ears is a very, very common place for us to get, for us to see skin cancer.
Really?
And it's a very challenging when it comes to performing surgery. So you really want to make sure that you use a hat, that you always apply sunscreen on the ears. Now, with the sunscreen, it is important to apply mostly on the areas where your clothing are not covering it. Right? That should be enough. You don't have to do it under the clothes, right? Now I have to say, for the most part, studies have shown that even when we use sunscreen, excuse me, we don't apply enough amount, or we don't reapply. I get this in my office all the time. You know, I ask my patients, do you use sunscreen? Yes, every day in the morning. But there's no reapplication.
So when should you reapply?
All right. We think that reapplication of the sunscreen should happen around every 2 to 3 hours, whenever you are outdoors, right? Because if you're in the water, the sunscreen would last about 80, 90 minutes, right? So you need to be reapplying. If you sweat, that also decreases the effectivity of it. If you are by the beach, the reflection of the water, the sand, that increases UV radiation in about 25%.
Wow.
So you do have to reapply.
Let me ask you a question here, Doc, regarding melanin and the lack of melanin, and whether that has any direct impact on skin cancer if you're looking at persons who are dark skinned, for instance, versus persons who are lighter skinned.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. That's a very interesting question. All right, so let's start here. Our skin gives us some type of protection against UV radiation. And it's said that a person with very light skin, they would have a SPF of 4 to 5. A person with very dark skin would have a SPF of 13.5. Now, 13.5, it's not even half of what we recommend for a sunscreen, which is 30. SPF 30, it's the minimum. So even though darker people or people with darker skin would have a little bit of extra protection, it's not enough.
It's not enough.
To prevent skin cancer. And the sad thing is that the concept in people's mind is, okay, I'm dark skinned, so I'm not going to have skin cancer. That leads to the fact that these people with darker skin would come to see us later when the cancer is more advanced. So there's actually a higher mortality in people with darker skin, because simply we are not thinking that it can happen to us.
Right? Let's go back a bit, Doc. Describe for us the symptoms of skin cancer. because we've been discussing skin cancer or what have you, but for the layman, for the average person, how would we be able to detect that something is wrong with us enough for us to go and get screened for skin cancer?
Okay, so it could vary a lot. It could look very, very different, right? But I believe the best advice is to know your skin. You know, I have a mole on my thigh, or I have a mole right here on my shoulder. So if you would examine your skin, say, every month, and the moment you notice anything new on your skin, the safest thing is to go and have it checked. Now, say I have a mole and suddenly it starts to get irritated, itchy, painful, it starts bleeding, it changes in size or in color. All of these could be alarm signs for skin cancer, right? Because there are different types of skin cancers. The most common one is the one we call basal cell carcinoma. And luckily, this one grows very, very slowly. So it could literally start like a mole, right? So you look at it and you say, oh, okay, I got a new mole. And then 2 years after, you go out to the dermatologist and you find out it was a skin cancer. So that's where my recommendation comes in. Anything new, especially I would say if you are over 50 years of age, right? It's best to get it checked. Now, that doesn't mean that younger people can't or don't get skin cancer. There's quite a bit also.
We've seemed to be associating the higher chance of getting skin cancer with more exposure to the sun. But should persons or are persons being on the inside of workplaces or the homes, should they also be wearing sunscreen?
All right. So in terms of skin cancer prevention, the use of sunscreen should be done pretty much early in the morning and maybe around midday. And that protects you throughout the day. That's about it, right? So if you talk about other conditions, then some people might need to use sunscreen even when indoors. But when it comes to the purpose of preventing skin cancer, application in the morning and around midday, that will have you covered. You know, say you go for lunch and come back to the office, right? Or you have to go and run some errands, you're good with twice a day application.
Let's talk about other ways that we can take care of our skin. Oftentimes we think of topical contributions, but is it important to consider the things that we put inside our body that also cares for your skin?
Yes, that's huge, right? Nutrition is huge, and sometimes we forget it because we're always looking for that cream or that pill that, you know, will build collagen and stuff, right? But for example, we know for a fact that the ingestion of beverages or food that have a high load of carbs, highly processed carbs, right? Or sugars in general, right? So latte or any of those, that will damage your skin and it will age your skin prematurely. So it's not just about trying to consume something to help us, it's also what we should stay away from. Dairy products. Dairy products, it's something that it's already known, it's proven, that they are pro-inflammatory. So that's why at least my patients with acne, they know that I will ask them to come off dairy, like no dairy whatsoever.
No milk, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, any of that.
No. I know, because I've also been in your office before and you told me the same thing. But one of the things that I want to bring up is oftentimes people associate with drinking water with having a fabulous skin. Is that a myth or is that true?
I would say it's maybe a half true, because water it's important, to be hydrated. It's important for the well functioning of our system. But when it comes to the skin, you want to address the skin directly.
Yeah.
So in order to give your skin that glow, you want to keep it moisturized, and you do that by using a lotion, a moisturizer.
That was one of the questions that I asked you the last time around when you were here, because there's this myth, as Sabrina alluded to, that drinking lots of water helps to kind of, cleanse the skin and so forth. We've been hearing that. As a child, I grew up hearing that. And, well, clearly you debunked that the last time you were here. But the idea, I think, for many still remains the same, that water is good in terms of, being able to treat the skin or moisturize the skin, as it were.
Yeah. You know what happens? In an ideal world, maybe that might be true, but if you think about it, we are constantly making aggressions to our skin. When, for example, the skin is supposed to be on the surface, it's supposed to be a little bit on the acidic side. But if I go and use a body wash and it's scented, I'm immediately changing the pH, the level of acidity.
Don't say that. I love scented body wash.
That's not healthy at all.
Wow.
So you see, now you change the pH of your skin, and now you put your skin in a disadvantage. It's not in its best shape.
What about
to protect
perfume? Body spray, perfume.
That would be fine. If you have sensitive skin, what you want to do is, like before you put on your clothes, you just spray it on the clothes, and then you put your clothes on.
All right. Well, Doc, as we are winding down this segment, I wanna perhaps do a quick round of do's and don'ts, or just your general tips. Let's make it really fast. First question: what is the most important tip that our viewers should take away on how to take care of your skin?
Okay, so use of sunscreen, use of moisturizer, right? Avoid being out in the sun. If your shade is shorter than you are, seek shade. And then try to incorporate more vegetables, more fruits into your diet. Those have plenty of antioxidants, and those ultimately will help your skin to be healthier.
Next, what habit ages your skin?
Okay, sugar.
Really?
Definitely. Sugar, dairy products, yeah.
All right, and if there is anything that our viewers should walk away with, what's the most important point you'd say?
Do your skin exams. You don't have to go to a dermatologist necessarily. Just know your skin. If there's any new lesion, new bump, then you better have it checked.
All right. Well, doctor, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for stopping by, for engaging with us and reminding us that drinking water does not necessarily allow you to have great skin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're switching over to Healthy Blends with Juice by Mar. Stay with us. We'll be right back.